Hello YouTubers, as I've repeatedly said on this channel, we're heading for war with China. And as I've tried to point out, the true reason we will be going to war with China is because of the threat China poses to American hegemony, since they are working to upend the dollar as the reserve currency of the world. Of course, the news media won't report this to you because of the fear that it would make us look weak on the world stage. Myself, I find that it takes courage and shows far greater strength to tell the truth, even if that truth doesn't benefit you, than it does to lie. Let's review the current situation, shall we? After all, hindsight's always 20/20. Trump likely realized that China wants a war even less than America. I mean, come on, who really wants a war with the United States military? Knowing that, the danger that the Chinese economy poses, well, that would provide more than enough justification to initiate a trade war. Of course, a trade war alone couldn't really destroy the Chinese economy, but the economy has further tanked from civil unrest from Hong Kong, combined with standing accused as a culprit of a global pandemic. And even all this hasn't tanked the Chinese economy, but it's certainly damaged it. Perhaps more importantly, the credibility of China has been damaged. More than anything, credibility is what's needed for long-term economic growth for any nation. I mean, think of it this way. Even a year ago, let alone two, would there be any serious talk among world nations of decoupling from China? Yet here we are in a world after COVID-19 where China is more hated than ever. Additionally, the nations are waking up to the danger that China poses both economically and military. And let's be honest, shall we? Trump deserves the bulk of the credit for rallying many nations against China. Will a decoupling strategy work? Well, if enough nations get behind decoupling, effectively isolating China from world trade, it would easily work. Of course, that's the most extreme case, and there are more nuanced policies that would work. The problem is, regardless of policy, despite the hatred of China, I'm not sure there's enough political power to achieve the goal of tanking China's economy. So I'm not convinced a decoupling strategy will work, though I'm hopeful as it's much preferable to war. However, I think the willingness to try decoupling strategies shows the willingness to avoid war if at all possible. Unfortunately, in the long run, a decoupling strategy will only further antagonize the situation. But while it means that a hot war will likely start later as nations pursue decoupling, it also makes a hot war all the more likely. That's because decoupling will polarize the nations into choosing China or choosing America, even more so than what currently exists. Allow me to provide just one example of how this can play out on the world stage. Recently, Iran and China signed a major trade deal. I recommend viewing Kyle Kalinski's video covering the issue. A link is provided in the description box. While I'm in favor of imperialism and Kyle is against the issue, he covers the issue fairly and accurately. One thing I would push back on is his assessment that this deal is an example of United States imperialism in decline, but his view is understandable given his bias against imperialism. While I don't think this trade deal represents United States imperialism in decline, I do think it represents a culmination of years of stupid and failed foreign policy. Again, I'm against stupid foreign policy, not imperialism. In effect, what this trade deal did was make Iran a client of China. Think of all the cheap oil that China will now be getting as a result. What's most sad about this deal is that, had we not been fools, Iran could have easily been our client and we would be getting cheap oil from them. More than anything, it is our stupid foreign policy that has ceded Iran to China. Given that the current administration tore up the Iran nuclear agreement and has perhaps been more hostile than any administration in history, many of the failures can be placed squarely on this administration. However, let's also be clear that the failure of Iran has far more to do with John Bolton than Donald Trump. I truly hope that the administration learns from these failures. With John Bolton out of the picture, perhaps so. We need to realize how game-changing the deal between Iran and China is. With these two nations having much closer economic ties, any economic or militaristic attack on Iran will now be seen as an attack on China. Keep in mind, I said almost the exact same argument almost 2 years ago, that American hostility towards Iran, Venezuela, and many other countries can be seen through the lens of proxy battles against China. With this deal, an attack on Iran would now be seen as a direct attack on Chinese interests, rather than a possible proxy battle, and so showing just how much the situation has escalated. So, if America wants to significantly increase tensions with China, a good way to do that is to attack Iran's oil industry. In such an event, the question will become, will China fight to protect her interests in Iran? And Iran is just one of many sources of conflict that's capable of initiating a hot war with China. Perhaps what's most important to realize is that Trump can defeat China. While Trump doesn't want a war with China, don't confuse not wanting war with being afraid to go to war. Given his actions, I'm firmly convinced that Trump wants to prevent China from having the capability to damage the dollar and would use war as a last resort. On the other hand, does anyone believe that Biden will protect us from Chinese aggression? Pro Quo Joe would only sell us out to China, making us far weaker and China more likely to successfully cause the collapse of the dollar. My next video will provide an update to another major source of conflict with China, the South China Sea. That's all the time I have for now. If you like this video, please show your support by subscribing. Thanks for your time.